you doing, Shakir?
I'm great. Hello, Ben and everyone else. Good to be here.
You want to give people a quick overview about what we're going to be doing the next 2 days?
Sure. We've recorded a song from scratch. We wrote it and recorded much of it yesterday. We kind of wanted to get our footing and have a track written and recorded that we could then kind of go through today and show you all the steps of the process. And we'll start today by having the guys play the tune for you live. We all really enjoy this sort of like rock, hip hop, rap kind of thing. It fits the paradigm of a sort of a modern recording because pretty much all the mics that we're using are just on the drums. We're using a real guitar amp, but we're using the aux box for sort of the cabinet simulation and the capture, like microphones, if you will. The four instruments we have are bass, drums, keyboards, and guitar. Keyboards are direct as well, and then the bass is a direct, and then we're using an amp sim, the flip top, the B15. We enjoy making this kind of music, and it's fun for me, so I just thought it was really appropriate.
So yeah, let's bring in the band and hear what we're working with.
So this is the K Club. This is Drew Smithers on guitar, electric guitar. Logan Todd on drums. Elliot Blaufus on keyboards, and Josh Paul on bass. And this is Spencer Thompson. Guys, take it away.
Yeah, dude.
Just hang tight for 1 second, guys. That sounded great. I seem to have lost my communication with Ben. I got you now.
There we go. Dude,
Sorry about that.
Totally badass. The band they rock, man. There's people who are like, that's tight, great. Coming from a hip hop fan, that's a real badass track. Loving the bass groove, the bass tone, the guitar reverb. There's compliments going all around nonstop on everything here. So this is gonna be
Nice.
really fun to be able to break this down piece by piece, and we'll talk about each one of these elements here today, guys. You've got mics, you got the band and mics, everything in the live room, all connected, all to your patch bay. From your patch bay, you're patching those into the Apollos. And are these all using Unison preamps, or are we using a combination of stuff?
No, it's all Unison. It's all Unison stuff. The only thing that's not actually a Unison preamp in the way that the microphones are on the electric guitar, because that's a line input out of the aux. But I am using a 1084 in the record path to do a little bit of EQ. So just one more time, guys, this is Josh.
What's up, Josh?
Right there.
Oh, hey, how are you? I hope you guys are enjoying all of this.
We're going to play to the track that we recorded yesterday, and we'll just spend a little bit of time going over more specifically what we did to get the sound that we have. The signal flow is like I said, I treated it like I was using a Neve console, so everything is the same input, at least to start. So treated it like a Neve desk, made some EQ adjustments on the input channel, and then it's going to a compressor. I like the DBX 160, the old one, a lot for bass. I really love it for bass. Now I've got something that's parametric, following it up. In this case, I chose the Harrison. I wanted something that had a little bit of color. I think I like the color of the Harrison, especially on the bass. This is the Ampeg. Come back. So we're in a new playlist, so we can just record. All right, here we go, Josh. I am in the higher gain setting on the B15. Switching the EQ in and out, pretty dramatic change. You can hear how much I'm sort of brightening. I'm adding a lot of articulation and some bottom end. Even though these EQ moves are pretty subtle on the Harrisons, I could really hear a lot more clarity when I threw them in, because it's getting rid of some of that very low mid-range stuff. And it's nice to do that after the compression, because you've kind of got the sound a little bit more solidified with the EQ that's before the compression, and then the compression sort of reining things in. And then I'm able to just do a little bit of subtle EQ post compression to sort of bring that condensed shape more into form. Josh, we're gonna move on to the keyboards.
Awesome.
So thank you, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks,
man.
Josh. Can you have Dawson point the GoPro towards the keys for me?
Yeah. Hi, man.
How's it going?
Good.
It's really fun.
Cool.
Yeah, we're watching from in there.
Oh, nice. Is that camera angle good for my friend Elliot?
Feels good to me.
For us?
Yep,
We
looks good.
Okay. All right.
For the keys here, so we're coming stereo DI out of the Nord into the line in on your coming in mic in, I guess, on your X8P. So what's it about, so the Neve 1084, this makes sense. Like you mentioned, you're kind of essentially setting up a Neve console for yourself on the way in. Why would you choose the 176 to follow up with it?
Yesterday, we went around a little bit about trying to find the right keyboard tones. And, some of them, we started out too aggressive, and then we went too soft, and it took us a little while to find the right vibe. So once we kind of landed on that, we were leaning a little bit on the aggressive side. I chose the 176 for two reasons: because it's a tube compressor, so it's going to warm up some of that edginess that the sound has, and then it's going to grab a little bit of the peaks to sort of bring it back and control it. Let's do this. Let's do kind of a similar path. Have Elliot play to the track, and we'll record him as I'm switching some things in and out, just so you can hear the EQ changes and whatnot, and we'll see how much action we're getting out of the compressor. So we'll do that. Elliot,
Yes, sir.
because you only play that little build-up in the intro, and then you're out for the first half of that first A section, I'll start you on the second A section.
Okay.
and then just play along. We'll probably play through the C, and when we get to that third A section, we'll stop there. I'll just go ahead and stop there.
Okay.
As you could see, hopefully that, and here when I was turning the compressor on and off, it's doing a little bit of dynamic control. It's actually probably increasing the volume just slightly, but you know, it's just kind of touching some of the transients just a little bit. This keyboard sound is very similar to what like an electric guitar would be. It's already pretty dynamically small. There's not a lot of range in it because it's an aggressive sound. It was overshadowing some of the other tones and actually even its own the part itself by bringing these cutoff filters down and sort of keeping the aggressiveness of the sound, but then taking away some of the top end, brought it into the range frequency-wise where it was more pleasing to listen to on its own, but then also where it sat well with other things. So thanks very much, Elliot. We're going to move on to drums right now. This is Logan. I'm Jakir. How are you, buddy?
How are you?
I'm good. Okay, so like decisions about how to mic things. I want some toughness out of the drums. You know, there's so many decisions that go into drums. Now, there's an older snare drum with some dampening on it. It's got a wallet on it. Okay, so it's we're definitely going for like a older, vibier snare drum sound, kind of deadening it a little bit. The kick drum belongs to Logan. The toms are actually mine, and so is the snare drum. Cymbals are his. So it's kind of a combination. We found the voices that fit well together for our intention. Tuning drums is a huge thing. Yeah. Now, we have drums that are deader sounding, so there's not as much overtone. Like sometimes you need to tune the drums to the key of the song. A lot of times you choose fifths, you know, roots and fifths. It just sort of depends on the voices of the drums, where you want them to sit, and like what note you can get them closest to. How do I choose microphones? Well, I'm adding the NS10 that's back here.
I was like, most people put the NS10 out in front of the kick drum, and you got it back there as like a booty mic.
Yeah, totally. That's not just about the kick drum. There's other things, you know, it's kind of a picture of the kit. Having it behind him, his body, acting as a little bit of a gobo and shield from the cymbals. The reason I sort of start with that, mentioning that first, is because I know that's kind of a vibe mic that I want to get for this particular drum capture, right? So I don't need a microphone on the kick drum that is as deep and punchy. You know, I kind of went for an old school mic. It's a D20. It's an AKG D20. So it's got a lot of nice mid-range articulation. It's not, you know, it's not too extended and muddy in the bottom end. And then the snare drum mic is this. It's a Telefunken. I believe it's a 411, an M411. I'm using this overhead as a little bit of an overall capture, and you know, you're getting a lot of the cymbals and snare drum, right? Its relationship is kind of where the rack tom and the snare shells are kind of meeting. It's getting a pretty good picture of the both. I'm getting a pretty open, full snare sound. I'm getting the low end of the snare a bit in this mic, a bit in the NS10 mic. So I'm not necessarily looking for a full frequency microphone here. I just kind of want something that sounds cool in the mid-range and is going to give me that crisp kind of articulation, you know, just kind of a cool vibe. So transitioning from that, then we have this Flea microphone. It's a great Eastern European copy of a Tube 47, a U47. The reason it's here is because I'm using it for a kit sound. It is pretty compressed, and it's pointing down. It's in cardioid. Right, so it's listening on this side here. So what I'm getting is quite a bit of the shell of the kick drum here. I'm getting some tonality in between in the toms and the bottom of the snare a little bit too. So it's like kind of an overall mic, and by stuffing it in there real close and hammering with some compression, it's kind of giving me some mid-range punch and tonality that none of these other sort of like spot mics have. One important aspect that I should discuss about this setup. When you're using this Glenn Johns technique, which is a brilliant technique, because you can, I mean, the way Glenn did it is he used only 3 microphones. He used a kick drum mic and then these 2 overheads, so it's 3 channels. So from the center of the snare drum, I'm making sure with a cable that they're kind of equal distance, right?
Yeah.
So then that way that helps me center the snare drum as much as possible in this picture, you know. So that's an important aspect of this miking technique. So Logan, I'm going to have you play to the track live. So just play along for me.
All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
dude.
Thanks, brother.
What a tone. That was super cool. Thanks for kind of soloing stuff through and kind of pulling up to each one of those chains as we're going through it. So on the way in right now, it's all Neve 1084s for the preamps.
Yep.
And then you're kind of changing up the compressor, or you've got the DBX 160 on the kick, and then distressor on the snare. How are you choosing? Why wouldn't you just use the distressor on everything? Why are you kind of picking and choosing between different compressors per channel?
The reason I'm using the 160 on the kick drum, it makes the transients all a little more uniform. Not only is it affecting the transient as described, but it's kind of like tightening the tone up a little bit. The reason I like a distressor so much for a snare drum is that the attack and release settings, you can fine tune them to the way the drum is being played, the tempo of the song, and shape the tonality the way you want to. The reason I'm using this API 2500 as a bus compressor, but the reason I'm using it on the overheads is not using it for a lot of compression. It's just kind of touching it a little bit. Now the reason that I'm using a stereo compressor on those overheads is because they're in wildly different spots and they're hearing the drum kit very differently. But because I'm putting them through the same stereo compressor, the compressor is helping unify that image a little bit for me. Let's go to
MS-10.
the
So
MS-10.
yeah, the wild card here. You went for the Culture Vulture, I see.
Yeah. I went for the Culture Vulture just because, the drive feature obviously is going to give me distortion, but then with the bias, this is a really significant color changer. And then we have the distortion type. Also picked it because of some of its filter sets.
I think I know what you're about to go. You're about to show us that raw trick, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm just sending a very small amount of the kick and snare. No overheads. More of the vibe mics than the kick and snare. A lot of the NS10. The NS10 is kind of the most significant factor in this blend, right? So not only do we have the Culture Vulture on the NS10, but we're also adding a lot of this raw.
This is a Piedmont Custom Effects aluminum Falcon, just a Klon thing, and I don't really have it gained up all the way. It's just kind of like a boost of the, initial, just really amp.
Just pushing the amp just a little bit more?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. I have a delay going in there. And then he is using the Flint, the Strymon Flint, as just the trim in a section.
Yep. The 61 harmonic setting, which is that brown face Fender kind of warbly tremolo.
So yeah, we're using Honkin' Silvers 2x12. I'm using the Biodynamic ribbon mic. It's a 160. And then a Neumann U67. I decided to have the 160 off axis. The 67 is the dominant sound here with the 160 blended in. The way that I'm doing this is I've got the close mics panned all the way to the left, and then the room mic is panned all the way to the right. Everything is being recorded through the Neve console, right? It's a little bit for the color to kind of keep everything on that one recording console, and then for some tone shaping, yes, as in addition to that. Drew, would you go ahead and just kind of play through some of the parts, and I'm going to show them the changes on the EQ and kind of what's going on with that. Thank you, sir. The delay plugin is the Korg SDD 3000.
Nice. I love that one.
As we were refining the tempo of the song, I think we started slower and we kept speeding up. I had to bring the delay time down, so that it would feel in the pocket and in the rhythm of the song. I didn't want the delay sort of feeling behind and sort of dragging him off the feel,
So how do you typically approach the overdub process?
Depends, but the first thing I typically do is I would do some percussion overdubs and get that out of the way. So the first thing that we did was this Kunga overdub. I used the 1084, so it saves the setting there, which I didn't really do any EQ. I did not use the EQ circuit in terms of adding or doing anything with the EQ, but the EQ circuit is in. I typically like most of the time to have the signal go all the way through the EQ path. For the shaker and pretty much all of the percussion overdubs, I used the overhead path for the percussion overdubs. So I didn't really change anything significantly from what the overhead settings were, except I did crank the gain up. The shaker is quieter in the overheads, so I would have more gain, and then so it would touch the compressor a little bit. So there's this drum fill that goes into the last sort of verse outro section. Here's the drum fill as it was recorded, Logan on the kit. He wanted to add to it, and I said, well, okay, that's a great idea. Let's do it with the V drums. So that's the only place. We just use that. It's like a little specialty sound. It's just a little moment where those tom fills are. So we got a tambourine, a basket, and then I had the guys go out and do a clap track, adding these different sounds, highlighting the different sections and really making it stand apart from one another sonically as well.
I see a blue track in here. In a sea of pink, there's a blue labeled flute. What you brought a flute player in? What's this part?
No, Elliot, the keyboard player, can play many instruments. I think he says I don't play brass, but that's about it. He busted a flute out, and we were like, Let's do it. Let's go for it. See what it sounds like. He made it really staccato and kind of punchy as much as he could with a flute. I think it's probably a pretty hard instrument to do that with. Where it really stands out of a flute is at the end. Let's get into vocals.
Awesome.
This is how I set the compressor up, because we also set up the effects, which we use the raw again and the delay. I just copied the plugins. I use this for drums, use this for guitar. I left them in my session. I disabled them, and I made new versions of them for the effects I now want to use, and that's why I printed them, because I can only get to virtual effect paths while I'm in ARM mode. We're on the Townsend mic first, and like I said, pulled up a 47. I'm not using any Unison pre yet, because I want to pick the microphone first. I just want to use a really clean path and not have it colored by anything.
Yep.
So I'm just really hearing the microphone as close to it as, you know, I mean, obviously with the effects we're putting on it, it's going to be a little colored, but I'm getting the truest sense of the microphone before I pick a pre for it. Let's just go from the top. Okay.
One, two. Yo. Front and center, spotlight when I enter. The white flag waving, other side surrenders. I be dropping world enders, mind benders, no contenders. 3-point senders came to silence all pretenders. Now I earn my keep, grafting in my sleep. I'm counting dollar signs while y'all counting sheep. Seeping through the cracks, I'm deep up in these tracks. 3 steps ahead while y'all 2 steps back. Come on, follow the vision, the kids on a mission. No time for indecision where the headline is sitting. Conquer and divide, take it all in stride. Keep it going on the side. Hustle till I die, hustle till I die. Hustle till I die, hustle till I die.
I am hammering it pretty good with the compressor, but I'm not really worried about preserving a lot of the dynamics. I do want to sort of smash it down and have it be that way. Let's go to my Flea 47, which is all the way on your right. Do you want to just go for that second verse, A section, so we have stuff to compare to, or do you want to do that much of the song?
No, we can just do the second verse.
Awesome. All right.
Yo. Now I keep it in style, both sides of the dial, left, right, over your head, and all the while I be reading books in Portuguese and drinking with a smile, living out your wildest fantasies while you still in denial. I keep it on the level, roll dice with the devil. Your lines be lightweight, but I be dropping heavy.
Personally, Spencer, I like the other mic better, just feel-wise. Okay, all right, well that's good. We're in agreement on that. Let's go to the SM7, sir.
I'm ready. Yo. Now I keep it in style, both sides of the dial, left, right, over your head, and all the while I be reading books in Portuguese and drinking with a smile, living out your wildest fantasies while you still in denial, and I keep it on the level, roll dice with the devil.
I have the same opinion about the SM7, that the first mic, the Townsend's better. This fourth microphone is the Singular Audio. It's made in Holland, I believe. Let's rock this, and then we'll make a decision.
Yo. Now I keep it in style, both sides of the dial, left, right, over your head, and all the while I be reading books in Portuguese and drinking with a smile, living out your wildest fantasies while you still in denial, and I keep it on the level, roll dice with the devil. Your lines be lightweight, but
It's a pretty close contest, but I think I'm going to go with the Singular. Are you still feeling good about that?
yeah.
Okay.
Basically what we're doing here, and hopefully you guys are picking this up at home, is you kind of, we're trying things out one at a time. So it was important as we were selecting the microphone to be using the same signal chain for each mic to really identify, great, which mic is giving us the best input, no, and then just using Shakir's intuition for the compressor and distortion and delay to help establish, which one are we going to go with? What's our source going to be? So now it's time to define, can we improve on this sound by adding a preamp into the signal chain, again, while maintaining compressor and effects. So that way the vibe to the headphones and the vibe that you guys are hearing is all there, but we're trying to optimize it piece by piece, essentially.
100%, my friend, 100%. I'm going to side with what Spencer's choosing and go with the Avalon because it doesn't have some of the clarity of the the first thing that we did, but it does have like a really focused lower mid-range, which for having that chesty sound that we talked about earlier and the way that it kind of sits and connects to the track, it feels right to me. And I also think it's interacting with the compressor really well. It's continuing to drive that distortion well. With the singular mic. Spencer, let's run you down a couple takes, pal.
Taking it slow, come on. You know by now I got irons in the fire. Net unto net while I'm walking on the wire. Conquer and divide. Take it on the side, keep it going on the side. Hustle till I die. Hustle till I die. Hustle till I die. Come on.
Here, man, it's been super fun hanging out with you guys. Spencer and the entire band, what an awesome group of guys, made for a really cool track.
Yeah, thank you. So happy to be a part of this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hustle till I die, hustle till I die, hustle till I die, hustle